You followed the playbook, you worked the years, you saved what you could, you waited. And the promise was simple. Do that, and the hard part is mostly over. But this year, a major survey found that only 64% of Americans feel confident they have enough money to live comfortably through retirement. More than 1 in 3 do not feel that way. And here is the part that makes no sense. Even people who are already retired are feeling it. Worker confidence fell 6 points. Retiree confidence fell 5 points. Not pre-retirees panicking about the future, actual retirees living it, feeling less secure than they did a year ago. That is worth sitting with for a second. These are people who made it. They crossed the finish line, and they are looking at their monthly budget and feeling something is wrong. This isn't about bad planning. It's not about one bad market year. Something structural is happening here, and the numbers point directly at it. Think about the retirement check as your starting point. For the average retired worker, the 2026 Social Security raise brought the monthly benefit from $2,015 to $2,071, a 2.8% cost of living adjustment, real money. The government announced it, the math checked out. But by the time that check arrives, something else has already moved. And that's where the story starts. The 2026 Medicare Part B premium is $202.90 a month. That's up $17.90 from last year. Now, the Social Security Administration takes that premium directly out of most people's Social Security checks. You don't write a separate check, it's just gone before you see it. So the raise arrives $56, and the Medicare premium increase quietly takes $17.90 of it before the month even starts. That's nearly a third of the raise. Gone. Before groceries, before utilities, before you turn the lights on. And the Part B premium is just one of 5 things waiting in line to collect. The raise was real. The check is real, but it lands in a world where the first claims have multiplied. And the story of why retirement feels harder is really a story about what comes off the top. Here is the next layer. The 2026 cost of living adjustment was calculated using a worker-focused price index from 2025, but prices didn't stop moving when that calculation closed. In May 2026, the overall consumer price index was up 4.2% over the previous 12 months. The COLA was set at 2.8%. The May inflation reading is 4.2%. That gap isn't a technicality. That's the gap the average retiree is trying to live inside. And there's something worth understanding about how the COLA is even calculated. The adjustment is tied to an index called the CPIW, which tracks the spending patterns of wage earners and clerical workers. It covers roughly 30% of the US population. It was designed to help workers. When commuting costs drive that index up, the COLA rises. But when retiree-heavy costs like home care or specialist visits go up faster, the adjustment doesn't automatically follow. The mismatch is structural. It's not a glitch. It's just a formula that wasn't built with retirees at the center. Then there's housing. And this is where the mental model really starts to crack. People assume that once you retire, housing costs mostly go away. Maybe the mortgage is paid off. Maybe you've been in the same house for 30 years. But Harvard's Housing Research Center found that nearly 11.2 million older adults were spending more than 30% of their household income on housing costs as recently as 2021, 30%. That's the official threshold for being cost-burdened. Property taxes, home insurance, maintenance, repairs. For renters, the rent itself. These costs don't come with a retirement exemption. Then there's debt, and this one tends to surprise people. The 2026 EBRI Retirement Confidence Survey found that 65% of workers say debt is a problem in their household. 3 in 10 retirees said debt negatively affects their ability to live comfortably in retirement. Credit cards, auto loans, even remaining mortgage balances, retirement doesn't erase the payment. The check arrives, and the debt payment is already waiting for it. And then there's healthcare. This is where even careful plans tend to break. The 2026 EBRI survey found that 2 in 5 retirees said their healthcare expenses came in higher than expected, not slightly over budget, higher than they had planned for. Part of that is the premiums rising every year, Part is the deductible, which also rose in 2026 to $283. But the bigger issue is the gap in what Medicare actually covers. Medicare is real, important health insurance. It covers a lot, but it doesn't pay for most long-term custodial care. If you need regular help with basic daily tasks, bathing, dressing, getting around for an extended period, you pay that cost out of pocket unless you have separate coverage. That's not a small gap. For many people, it's the single largest financial risk in retirement, and it doesn't appear on most retirement planning worksheets. An AARP survey this year found that 69% of adults 50 and over said prices are rising faster than their income. That isn't a fringe feeling. That's the majority of older Americans saying they feel the gap every single month. Here is the thing. None of this was hidden. None of it is a retirement scam. The problem is that the old retirement promise was built around a simpler cost bundle. The mental model most people carry into retirement looks like this. You get the check, the house is paid off, Medicare handles the medical stuff, and the rest is yours. That model was a reasonable description of retirement for a long time. It's just that the bundle changed. The average household for adults 65 and over spends around $61,400 a year, according to BLS consumer expenditure data. Housing is the single largest category, transportation second, then food, then healthcare. These aren't luxuries. This is a full monthly budget that looks a lot like the budget before retirement. The bundle got bigger, the automatic first claims got more numerous, and the income they attached to moved slowly. Let's stay with Medicare for one more beat, because there's a tier most people don't see coming. If your total income in retirement crosses certain thresholds, Medicare charges you more. These are called income-related monthly adjustment amounts. About 8% of Part B enrollees pay them. If your income as a single filer is above $106,000, your standard $202.90 premium becomes $284.10. Higher income tiers go higher still. Now, 8% sounds like a small group, but retirement income has a way of adding up in ways people don't predict. Required minimum distributions from a traditional IRA or 401k count as taxable income. A good year for your retirement savings can suddenly cross a Medicare threshold and cost you more on your premium with no warning. You didn't make a mistake, you just crossed a line you might not have known existed. And then there are taxes. This is the one that surprises people even after they've done serious planning. Social Security benefits can be taxable, not for everyone, and not always at the full amount. But if you take half of your Social Security benefit and add it to any other income you receive, and that total crosses $25,000 as a single filer, or $32,000 for a married couple filing jointly, some of your benefits become taxable. Above higher thresholds, up to 85% of the benefit can be included in your taxable income. These thresholds haven't been adjusted for inflation in decades. When they were first set, most Social Security recipients didn't come close to them. Today, many retirees with even modest retirement account withdrawals find themselves in taxable territory. The check arrives. The government gave you the raise, and then the IRS may take a portion of it back. This isn't a conspiracy. It's not a punishment. It's just the way the system was built, and the way it stacks up when you put it all on the table at once. And there is a longer-term pressure worth naming honestly. The 2025 Social Security Trustees Report projects that the combined trust funds could pay full scheduled benefits until 2034. After that, under current law and without changes from Congress, continuing income would cover about 81% of scheduled benefits. That's not Social Security disappearing. It's not going bankrupt. But it is a real funding gap that Congress will eventually have to address. It has addressed similar gaps before, but the uncertainty itself carries a cost. It hangs over every retirement projection. It makes it harder to trust the long-range numbers. Here's what all of this looks like from the inside. 3 in 10 retirees say debt is affecting how comfortably they live. 2 in 5 say healthcare costs them more than they planned for, and nearly 7 in 10 people 50 and over say prices are outpacing their income. This isn't a story about people who made bad decisions. This is the majority of older Americans running into the same wall, month after month, and wondering why the plan felt more solid on paper. So what is actually happening here? Retirement didn't get more expensive because people made worse decisions. It got more expensive because a fixed or slow-moving income is now meeting a cost structure that doesn't stand still. The Social Security raise is 2.8%. The Part B premium increase takes a piece of it. The current inflation rate runs above the raise. Housing never went away. Debt followed people across the retirement line, healthcare surprised them on the upside, and the income itself can trigger a tax bill. None of those things alone would crack a retirement plan, but together they explain why a retiree who did everything right can still feel squeezed at the start of the year. The old promise said, focus on the savings number, get the check, and you're done. The reality is that the check is just the starting point. What matters, month to month, is what comes off the top before you spend a single dollar on anything you chose. The problem isn't your retirement. The problem is the mismatch between a slow-moving income and a full-moving budget that doesn't slow down with you. Understanding that clearly is the first step to thinking about it honestly and planning around it. If this helped you see the monthly mechanics more clearly, stick around. The next video goes deeper on one of the specific cost layers we covered today. And if you know someone approaching retirement who feels confused or anxious about the numbers, share this with them. The math is hard, understanding it is the first step. Thanks.